recording. Um, hey everyone, all of my fans out there. It's still super awkward saying that, but welcome back to Super Good Biz. Today's theme is going to be in the mind of a social entrepreneur, and the special guest is Shubham. And I hope I said that correctly. We were just practicing.
Yeah.
She is one of a few entrepreneurs behind SoaPen, which I'm super excited to share with everyone and have her share the story and the product and everything about that. So if you would like to introduce yourself first, and then we can start talking about the company.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. Hi, everybody. I'm Shubham. I'm the co-founder of SoaPen. We make hand washing fun and accessible to kids all over the world through our product SoaPen. It's a soap kids can draw with on their hands. And the idea is that they draw all over their hands, and in removing the traces of the drawing, they wash their hands thoroughly for 20 to 40 seconds, while also, most importantly, having fun. And our idea with the product is that when kids are having fun while learning daily habits, they tend to view them as something that's favorable and something that they, want to make a behavior change over time.
Can you show us the product?
Yes.
Because it looks like a crayon, right?
It's like a soap stick. So it's got a rollable tip, which marks on your hand. So liquid soap inside. So you can draw with that all over your hands. I'm not
I
going to
love
draw
that.
much, but the idea is that kids mark all critically important areas to be cleaned. So your fingers, the back of your hand, and intuitively wash the hands thoroughly by just having some fun and drawing on the hands.
Right. So they would be able to have water and wash their hands. It's not like antibacterial where it just is kind of like they would wash and then it's clean. They would need water to wash it
I mean,
off.
soap in itself is antibacterial. It doesn't need extra ingredients to remove bacteria, but it is not a hand sanitizer. We promote hand washing with soap because it removes dirt, it removes bad germs, but it keeps the good bacteria on your hand. With hand sanitizer, you're getting rid of all bacteria on your hand, and there are certain bacteria that are good for you. And overall, with hand sanitizer, it can lead to a natural immunity reduction in the natural immunity of a child. But obviously, with COVID, there are certain use cases where hand sanitizer is the only option while you're on the go. And don't have access to water. But with SoaPen, you can put it in your bag, take it on the go. And if you do have access to water, you can wash your hands over using hand sanitizer.
That's amazing. I love how it's designed to help children have these better habits and understanding. And also through that, you're also helping parents understand the benefits of hand washing and how to wash your hands well and all of the things that prior to COVID, we probably didn't know about is it 20 seconds? Like washing your hands for 20 seconds?
20 to 40 seconons.
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, I would be drawing flowers with all these details and like a stem just so I can like make sure it lasts for 20 seconds. Because at this point, I'm just counting Mississippis in my head. And I'm like, if I was a kid, I'd be like probably lost on like 7 Mississippi. I'd be like, oh, a fly, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And when we started this journey, we didn't even know that there were 7 steps of hand washing. So WHO mandates these 7 steps of hand washing. So it's like, you rub your palms together, go in between the fingers. You have to get your fingertips, your wrist, your thumb, the back of your hands. So there's so many steps that are actually taught in a lot of hand washing teaching curriculums. And it was just so funny to us. And I was like, wow, I've been washing my hands my whole life, and I didn't know that there were 7 steps attached to it. So with SoaPen, the idea is that if you're drawing all over your hands, you're naturally doing those 7 steps without like actually thinking about them. And it just makes it more fun rather than sitting around and figuring out what the 7 steps were.
I went on mute because, as timing goes, there's people mowing the lawn, like right when we have this.
If it makes me feel better, I can't hear a thing.
Oh, okay, good. I went on mute to try to make sure it didn't have that background noise. So how did you come up with this idea? Like, what was the problem that you became obsessed with, or what was the thing that really inspired everything?
Yeah, so I grew up in New Delhi in India, and I moved to the States for design school. I went to the Parsons School of Design. I've majored in industrial design. We're problem solvers, and our whole curriculum is around, you know, creating things not just for the heck of it, but thinking about the purpose behind them. And I met my co-founder in the program. We worked on a lot of projects while we were in school, and post-graduation, we both had our own, different jobs, but still wanted to collaborate on things. And we were very obsessed with the idea of creating products with a social impact and designing for good. And we found the UNICEF Wearables for Good Challenge online, which highlighted a lot of problems that mothers and infants around the world were facing. So the one that specifically spoke to us was high rates of infant mortality among kids under the age of 5, and how more than 50% of the infectious diseases that can lead to fatalities can be avoided by just washing your hands with soap. And it was such a shocking statistic to us. Not that it was total disbelief, because we knew that hygiene problems, especially in India, do exist, but also from the fact that, I grew up in the country, but was privileged enough to go to a school where soap was readily available. My parents knew the impact of washing hands with soap, but if you're coming from a low income background, sometimes your parents don't know well enough. They think that washing hands just with water is totally fine, or sometimes low-income schools will get donated soap. So they're so precious about that commodity that they don't give it out freely for kids to wash their hands before the midday meal. So going back to schools in Mumbai, in Delhi, and in New York, also we realized that sometimes there is a lack of awareness around the benefits of washing hands with soap. And those are the statistics that sparked the idea of SoaPen. We just wanted to make something that would make hand washing fun for kids.
Yeah, the crazy thing about that statistic is that the solution or the way to prevent all of these that mortality rate from being so high is something as simple as washing your hands. Like,
Yeah.
I think to me that's the really interesting part of this, was like, you didn't try to address the illnesses that were happening that were actually symptoms of this problem, which was hygiene and being able to, and then another kind of root of that is having access to soap. So it's very interesting and super strategic, and my strategy brain gets really excited when like this problem or this solution solves so many problems, because it's truly at the root of the problem. So props to you all for finding that
Thank
and like
you.
sticking with it. How many years have you been working on this?
Oh my gosh. It feels like a lifetime. Just kidding. Um, so we won the challenge in 2016, and got some prize money to do R&D while still holding the fort with our, part-time jobs. This was still an idea, and we weren't sure if we could actually do it. So we took that money, put it into R&D. I think the biggest hurdle was just finding the right partners. We spoke to a lot of chemical engineering firms. We spoke to a lot of manufacturers, and the first year and a half to 2 years, we were just trying to figure out if we can make this. And then once we realized we found the right partners, and we realized that, this is something that is chemically possible, we did a Kickstarter, which in itself was a full-time job. We learned how to crowdfund, and I feel like even now, if someone reaches out to me for advice on crowdfunding, I kind of just talk them out of it, because it was the biggest learning in how to ask, how to put yourself out there, because you're essentially selling your idea to your nearest and dearest and asking them for money, which is the hardest thing on this planet. But yeah, we did a crowdfunding campaign that was in 2017. And then in 2018, end of 2018, early 2019 is when we launched the product. So it took a good 2 years to actually get to a point where we could think about putting it out in the market. It's been a journey. And then the social aspect of it is, something that's really dear to our hearts. For every 3 SoaPens sold in the US, we donate one to a low-income school in India. We've done hand washing awareness campaigns in the past. And then we've also done them in India. We've also, when the opportunity arises, we move out of India as well. We've done some in the Philippines, and Vietnam as well. So I think with the next bit, our focus is going to be maybe even looking at some local donations, because US has been hit so hard with COVID. And
Mm-hmm.
I do think that kids in low income areas within domestically as well, we do need some kind of like positivity and infusing daily habits with something fun.
Mm-hmm. So I want to go back to one of the things you said about partners. And when you were talking to different manufacturers, you said we wanted to find the right partner. What did you mean by that? What were you looking for? Because I imagine, or I'm wondering if that's different for you as a social entrepreneur. Like, were you thinking about values, or were you thinking about capability, like whether they could make this, or were you thinking about cost? Like, what were the things that you were looking for?
I think a mixture of all of that. Primarily, we came up with the idea when we were both, 21, 22, and immigrants with no idea what was happening. It was so hard for people to take us seriously. And I felt like when we would get on calls with contract manufacturers, it was like they had an idea how to make it, but anytime they would meet us in person, they'd realize we're so young and so inexperienced. So like all these problems would start cropping up. All the quotes that we were given would increase twofold. So it was
Mm,
hard because there was a lot of mistrust on our end, because we didn't know what exactly we were doing, and didn't and there was a certain sense of like not being taken very seriously when we approached manufacturers. And then how we went about it is, I think, one of my biggest learnings as an entrepreneur as well, is to find mentors and advisors who know what they're doing, and they can guide you. They need to believe in your story and your mission, and then help you get on a path that they've already been on. And that's what we did. We found industry specific mentors who then had the connections to connect us to the right manufacturer that they have worked with previously and that we liked. So it was a couple of things, first, that they should take us seriously. They should believe in the mission, believe in the idea, and then also be ready to think out of the box, because this isn't a product that, was on the market. We were doing something new, something that we weren't sure was possible. So you need someone who's like, I can, I can play around with this. I can think about this in a different manner. It's not going to be that cookie cutter approach.
yeah, absolutely. You kind of need those people who are manufacturing and doing the I don't know if you would call it the supply chain, but all of the back end things, making sure that they are believing in your mission and have that entrepreneurial spirit as well.
Yeah.
Um, it's funny, like as you were talking about the hurdles of like people believing in you, and then also, using your age against you. To me, I was kind of like, that would be one of the most inspiring things, of being like, this is so impressive. Like, these folks are coming out of college, they have this idea and they're pursuing this. And the fact that they don't know what they're doing, like that's every entrepreneur. Like, like all the brilliant ideas that exist in the world, like started off with people who had a dream and don't necessarily know how to get there, but they're just like figuring out like, along the way. Like, Amazon right now, it's in the news because Bezos is going to become the chairman and remove himself from CEO. But I was like, Amazon started as a bookstore, like when I was in college, and now it's like, about shipping and Prime Video. So I don't know. It's funny that some people don't get it, and being able to find partners that do get it and do respect that and see that vision and buy into it is super important. Do you think there was a part of those hesitations, was part of that because this had some sort of social impact in it, or that wasn't the case at all because they could see that this is a product that could be sold anywhere?
Yeah, no, I think the social impact was always met with a lot of support. I think
Mm,
we started this, in 2016, so it's been about 5 years, and I do think there was when I want to say when I was in my junior year, about like 8 years ago, was when I started to see that shift in conscious consumerism, where I think consumers became, even me as a college student, I was not fine going to H&M anymore, right? Like I wasn't going to Forever 21 anymore. I was beyond that. I was buying vintage. I was buying, brands and small businesses that I cared about with my limited student budget or whatever, if I wanted to treat myself. So I felt like that shift started from the consumer level early on. And I do think there's a very inspiring trend even now from consumers as well as people that you're doing business with about supporting people with a social mission, supporting people with a cause. I think there's skeptics everywhere, and you just have to find your champions. I think one of the things that I've learned on this journey is to care less. I used to care a lot, and I still do. I care, but I care about different things. I don't really care about what people think. I do care about what my consumers think. I don't care about, like perception. I care more about what value we're bringing in. So it changes, and I think you learn more as you go on that there's always going to be haters. You just have to figure out who you're listening to.
Yeah, I love that distinction. It's so important. It reminds me of Brene Brown's, I don't necessarily need your feedback unless you're also in the arena, like unless you're also putting yourself out there and taking risks. So I'm interested in hearing just like how the business works. You'd mentioned for every product sold, I think, or every 3 products sold in the US, 1 is donated to India. So is the business model that donation based, kind of inspired by like the Tom's model? Tom's just because they were the first ones who did that with their shoes. Or is there also like a kind of business to business model where you're working with other companies or schools or certain partners? Like how does all of that work?
So we've done both. And I think that's primarily because we're still in the figuring it out stage with the social mission and what kind of impact it can have. Because we do recognize that we're using plastic, right?
Mm,
So if we are donating product, do the areas that we're donating to have a recycling program? We have to think about a lot of things, even with our donation. I think that's why the Tom's model also got a lot of criticism, because they were actually, some of their donations were destroying the local economy.
right.
And some of the shoes were being sold instead of used. So we are very conscious that it can have that kind of impact. So mostly our donations have been directly to schools where the use is monitored, and recycling. We've made sure that there are recycling programs, or they're collecting the containers, even if it's a small scale, and we can maybe refill them. So we have been thinking a lot about that. We've also done part proceeds, especially with our hand sanitizer that we launched during COVID. We did 10% of all sales going to the Emergent Fund, which is a Black bailout fund for youths that have been affected by COVID and evictions. So we've done that. So it's honestly, I'll be very honest, it's an ever-changing model right now. Specifically now, we also want to do some domestic good and do some donations, whether that involves product donations or it's part proceeds. We're also always going to have a social mission, but we do understand that it is going to be an ever-changing one. So I think a year ago, we did an exercise where we thought about the social mission and what versions it's going to have. And the ultimate goal is to do production in the areas that we want to do donations in, so that we're enriching the local economy as well. That as we're doing the production, we're hiring local people, and then we're selling directly to aid organizations like Red Cross or UNICEF, who are then doing hand washing awareness programs within those countries. So that's the large goal, the end goal. But that's only going to come with scale. So I will say it's ever changing, the social mission bit of it. We just want to make sure that we are continuing to do it in one form or the other, and partnering with people that are going to help us on the way.
I am so inspired listening to that because it has like further validated and also opened my eyes, and hopefully all of my followers out there. I'm just gonna like keep like making it feel like there's a ton. Because like the way you're talking about how you make business decisions is very expansive, and it's also thinking about not just like how do we make our product and sell our product, but it's about the unintended consequences that could happen. And that is something I don't think a lot of businesses do, who are focused on just profit and revenue. Like they're not thinking about the consequences 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road after their product is made and sold. And the two things I want to point out that you said that are just like really impressive to be thinking about this early on, especially as you're kind of like figuring out what's the best model or allowing it to be flexible. One was understanding that this product does have plastic, so we need to be able to donate or put it in places where there's a recycling program so that the product itself doesn't become part of the problem or part of another problem, which is plastics, right? Or become another plastic in the ocean. So thinking ahead of time and using that as part of your criteria for decision making and for what the decisions you're making in your business is so freaking awesome. And then the second thing you said was about helping the local economy. So like choosing specific places to do the production so that you're hiring folks in the local economy and then also giving them the product that can help them. And that to me is such a different way of thinking. That was actually going to be one of my questions. You know, how do you think about and approach business differently? And those two examples is like you are thinking about unintended consequences and also about positive impact in more ways than just the product itself. It's about the supply chain, how it's made and the production, the after it's sold, like the afterlife of the product. And so I think I feel like is something that big brands and corporations can learn from you, because my possibly jaded perspective or maybe just the realities is that people are looking for, typical businesses are looking for where it's low cost. Where can I make this, or what can I do in order to lower my costs so that when I do make revenue, I have more profit, and then half of that can go back into reinvesting in the business. Because if the business doesn't survive, we can't then it's just, it doesn't help anybody, whether it's because of the product or, you know, how we make it. So I'm just like processing all of that and repeating it because I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I want to draw that connection.
Yeah. And that's the goal, right? That I think it's really important to have an aspiration on where you want to be, on the operation side of things, on like the sales side of things, because ultimately you are doing business, whether it's the business of doing good, and you do have to think about it. I think a lot of times for me that a big pet peeve is that you can't do good and also make a profit, right? Like
Agreed.
nonprofits, the mentality of that you just cannot think of your business as profitable while also doing good is silly to me, especially in this era now that we're in. I think it's so important to think about both those things at the same time, and having that aspiration so that you're taking steps to scale in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. That I think is something that big brands and corporations that's something that they can learn from you all and other social entrepreneurs. What are some other things you think they could learn from you all?
I think always keeping the consumer in mind. We learned early on with our mistakes that it's important to have a consumer fan base that you're constantly checking in with. I think I'm most thankful for all the moms and dads who've been a part of this journey with us and, you know, have believed in the product. So we launched an MVP in 2019. It was a beta test of, you know, we only focused on Amazon because we had no marketing budget. So our hope was that someone out there is going to find the product on Amazon organically, and we're going to make some sales with no marketing budget. So we launched it there, and you know, the first 6 months were really, really, really slow. We were barely making any sales. And then we started doing wholesale on smaller platforms like Fair and Tundra, which connect smaller brands to smaller boutique stores. And wholesale was a completely new game for us, and it was really awesome. We started moving. That was the first time, I think, in summer of 2019 that we really started moving units. And it was pretty, you know, reassuring that, okay, there is space for this on the retail side of things as well. And then in October of 2019, we got featured in Real Simple, which is a household magazine, and it was insane. We were in print for maybe you know, it came out in the Thanksgiving, publishing. That was the magazine that it came out in, and in 2 weeks, we sold out of our entire inventory on Amazon.
Wow.
It was
Wow.
insane. I've never understood the power of print media till that moment. And it was really reassuring because we were getting all this love from moms and dads. And um, we sold out, and it took us a while to get back in stock. And how Amazon works is that if you aren't in stock for 2 weeks, your listing basically becomes inactive, and all that, you know, momentum that you've built is lost. And that was pretty crushing because, again, totally bootstrapped and didn't know what we were doing. And then COVID happened, and then we were sold out again. But I think that period between selling out that first time and then selling out the second time, we started getting a lot of honest feedback from parents and um, kids. And number one was that everyone loves it. Number two was they wanted a rollerball dispenser that was thinner. So we launched with an off-the-shelf product, whatever we could find that worked with the product. And the mark was kind of more like a sidewalk chalk stick rather than, you know, a pen. And that was the second feedback. The third feedback was that they wanted the soap to be more vibrant. So we had to go back to the drawing board and meet all these requirements again. So the past 6 months, we've just been testing. We created, you know, industrial designers. We created our own packaging, created a mold. And as you can see, it's a lot more, you know, more a mark than, I have the other packaging there with me. I'll show you later from what it came from. And we switched our colors around. So now we have 3 new colors that we're going to be launching in March with. We have a blue, a orange, and a green. I have them here with me. So it's going to come in like this snazzy packaging. So a lot of new things and good things have come from all the feedback that we've gotten. But even with that MVP, you know, parents were more than happy to give that feedback. They were like, we love your product. We love this mission. We love that our kid wants to wash their hands, but there are a few things you could change. And then when we went back to them, like, I did so many consumer interviews in the past 6 months and talking to them about like, we're changing this, would you buy it? And they're all like, yes, we'd love to work with you to give you this feedback. So yeah, listening to go all a long-winded way to say that, listen to your consumers, keep them along for the journey, make them feel included, and like make them feel heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to get like a close-up of the product.
Yes.
And then also if you can show what it started at to see the journey.
I'm going to leave the screen and come back to it. So I hope this computer doesn't fall, but I'll be right back. Oh my God, it's so crazy to see it, like how it used to be.
Yeah, if you could hold them both up on either side, we can then see them.
Yeah.
Comparison.
It's like where it began and where it's now.
Yeah. And then I'd love to know like what else is coming up. I know I looked on the website and you all have started to dabble into hand sanitizer as well. So understanding how COVID has affected the business. Yes.
So this is what we started with, off the shelf packaging. And
can you lift it up a little bit just so we could see the whole package higher up?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, I can see that. Yep. So they wanted it to be smaller for smaller hands. That makes sense.
Yeah. So this is what the previous color looked like. So we reworked the formulation to make it brighter, and this is where we are now.
Oh yeah, that's a huge difference.
Yeah, it's exciting. Worked our butts off the past 6 months. I'm super excited to launch with something that parents are going to be happy with. So the main change we made is the packaging. The number 2 is we used to have a pink, a purple, and a blue. And now we've switched it to give a wider variety of colors. So it's blue, green, and orange. This is the orange. This is the green.
Oh, I love the actual labels and the design of that as well. I know you guys, that's all part of it. It's not just the packaging and
that's our strong suit.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's launching with these three colors, newer packaging. I think really thinking about what's going in it. So the new soap is going to be very hydrating. We've always, we've always kept our formulations SLS free. We're free of sulfates, which can be an irritant to a child's skin. It
Mm,
does affect lather. So a common myth in soap is that lather is important for cleaning. It's a completely fabricated thing. Suds and like lathering doesn't actually mean cleansing. So we're gonna have to deal with that kind of education. But the main lathering agent in most soaps is SLS, which is an irritant to a child's skin. So we've removed SLS. Our products has a soft lather, but we're okay with that, and educating our customer as to why.
yeah.
And so we've made it super hydrating. One of the few samples that I had in the past 6 months, I've given out to a friend whose daughter has eczema and she has very sensitive skin. And I'm very happy to say that she has not reacted badly to SoaPen at all. And it's super hydrating, very mild for a child's skin. Yeah, so I'm so excited to get this in hands of kids and
Yes.
yeah, see what kind of impact we can have.
Sorry, I was my cat's trying to
Oh my God.
stretch her nails and stretch on my
What's her
mom's
name?
chair. Astoriana,
Wow. Is that on
super bougie.
after Astoria?
She's a rescue, so I adopted her last year, and she was found in Astoria. So the
Love
shelter
it.
named her Astoriana, and she's kind of a bougie cat anyway. So I'm like, actually, I'm just gonna keep her because it feels appropriate.
Yeah.
Um, so last question is just understanding COVID, because COVID's affected all businesses. Sometimes it creates the opportunity, like for Zoom. We're using Zoom right now. It was a big opportunity for Zoom and to help people continue to work if they had that ability. Other businesses, destroyed them. It sounds like it could have been a combination of the two, especially as a small business owner, but also it's in the hygienic, I don't know if that's the hygienic industry or personal care. So how did COVID impact the business, and what opportunities came out of that for you all?
Yeah, it's so funny that you said that it's twofold because it really is. I mean, first of all, it led to a huge awareness about the benefits of hand washing. It's for the first time that I'm getting on pitch calls and on calls in general where I don't have to explain why hand washing, where I don't have to be like, why is this important in the US? Why is hand washing important in the US, even if our kids aren't dying of diarrhea? Because hand washing is important anywhere and everywhere. And it's a golden rule of prevention. So I think that's been a huge bonus of not having to explain the why of it. um, and of course it's led to opportunity. As you mentioned, we launched a hand sanitizer, and that was kind of an interesting decision. The main reason that we did it was because we were approached by a school partner that we work with a special needs school in New York, and they were having a really hard time finding a trusted vendor. And they approached us being like, if we order a large quantity, would you be interested in producing it? And so we looked into our manufacturing context, and we realized that it would have been pretty easy for us to do it. And that's the main reason we did it, to help out and also make sure that we're, making something that's made in the US, making something that's hydrating. So again, that's something that goes into the formulation. We've made sure we have vitamin E, we're scenting it with essential oils. So we're just trying to do our bit to create a quality product in a time where there's a lot of crap, to be honest, in the
Mm-hmm.
hand sanitizer market. I think even now, it's the kind of product that's on the market that's so cheap and terrible is really concerning. And yeah, so we came at it from an angle of helping out our existing vendors and just creating something that was good and had a social mission in a storm of lots of dubious products that were coming out.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and then the other side of it also has been, there's been a shortage of packaging all over the world. So waiting for shipping has really increased our timelines to
Mm,
many, many folds. So we had a launch date of a month or two ago, and it's been shifted to 3 months. So we've definitely seen a lot of lags in terms of, what we can do. But I think overall it's been pretty positive. I think we've received a lot of, support from our, as I mentioned, I like to call them consumer fans, our moms, super moms and super dads. And that's been really, really exciting.
Mm.
So while it's come with its challenges, I think we are stronger getting out of it.
Yeah. How can we help you? I mean, my first thought is to buy some soap pens for my nieces and nephews. But my mom's also a teacher, and my sister-in-law runs kind of a private practice. It's teaching, but more like tutoring for kids with special needs also. So, how can we help you? Should we be sharing this with schools? Should we just be buying them? What
Yeah,
else do you need?
I think buying is always, always something that can have a direct impact. We're selling a pack of three for $14.99, so it's not a heavy lift. And other than that, yes, would love to connect with any stakeholders in the space. Schools, we started exploring schools when we had just launched, but found that reaching out, cold outreach to schools is one of the hardest things. They're so busy with their day to day. They do
Yeah.
not want to be inundated with sales calls about new products.
Hmm.
So yeah, connections to warm intros to anyone who's in that space and is interested and sees the benefits of SoaPen being in a classroom.
Yeah.
I think the alternate side also is we've seen a lot of interest from special needs school because SoaPen makes it really easy to start a conversation around hand washing. And we all know that special needs kids can sometimes have a hard time just starting that conversation. They love their personal space and they don't want people coming into it. So SoaPen makes it easy to
Mm.
have that conversation. And also the rollerball aspect of drawing on your hands is a sensory experience,
Yes.
which we found is something that special needs kids really relate to. So this was its use case in a special needs scenario was very interesting, and very surprising, something we didn't think of. So yeah, would love that. And, just drop me a line of encouragement on Instagram.
Can do. I love that you found like a new, person that this can help tremendously. So that's also really inspiring as well, or inspiring as well. Thank you so much for chatting with me.
Thank you so much for
Looking
having
forward,
me.
yeah, looking forward to see what comes next for you all, and hoping we can help you out a little bit.
Yes, please. Thanks
Awesome.
so much,
Thank
Michelle.
you.
Ciao.
Bye.
Bye.